북한과 남한, 그리고 미국의 지도자가 정상회담을 하는 모습들을 여러 번 기억으로 할 수 있었는데, 그럼에도 북한이 가진 문제와 위협은 커졌고 주변국의 고민도 함께 커졌으니까 누구의 책임이라고 생각을 할 수 있을까요?
That's not the right question to ask as to who's to blame. The way the world works, it works in all these complicated ways. And as you can see, around the world, there's so many trouble spots and difficult times. And these arise. And so we still, on the Korean Peninsula, the fundamental problem is we have a division of one people into North and South. And we've had that for such a long time. We still haven't settled the war. From 1953, we have an armistice. And so over the last 30 years, where the North Koreans now have developed the nuclear weapons, it's just made things worse, but it's not the only problem. And so there is no simple solution. There is no single country to blame. And North Korea is certainly to blame. They developed nuclear weapons, and that's a concern. South Korea hasn't been able to manage that, and the United States, that I explain in my book, the reason I call it hinge points, is that there were critical times when the United States could have taken action that would either have slowed down the North Korean nuclear program, or it would have actually stopped and moved it backwards. And we made the wrong decisions. But it's not that the United States is at fault. We missed opportunities, but South Korea also has gone, friendly, more conservative, back and forth. It's missed various opportunities in the economic arena. That's where the South Korea, North Korea is really important. And in the end, you not only have to solve the nuclear problem, you have to solve the cultural problem, the political problem, and the economic problem. So you asked me before, and I never did answer, as to how do I look at things now. I described in 2004, so now that's almost 20 years ago. And I had hope most of the way along, and I had hope after the Singapore summit going into Hanoi. But the Hanoi summit was a disaster. In my opinion, Kim Jong-un was not sufficiently prepared. He didn't allow his people to work with the American diplomats. And then President Trump unfortunately walked away, and that was a big mistake, and it was a hinge point. And so that set into motion sort of North Korea reconsidering what I believe had been its 30-year policy, starting with Kim Il-sung around 1990, to actually seek normalization with the United States. At the same time, also build nuclear weapons and see which one works out. If normalization, diplomacy works out, go in that direction. Then we missed those opportunities, and with Hanoi was the big miss. So it took a couple of years where Kim Jong-un reevaluated his policy, and I believe that right now he has abandoned the policy of seeking normalization with the United States. Instead, he's turned himself towards Russia and towards China. And instead of just doing dual track diplomacy and nuclear weapons, he's gone hard over to nuclear weapons. So right now is a very difficult and dangerous time. And we all have to work together to figure out how do we get around those times, and perhaps there'll be another opportunity sometime in the future. I'm pessimistic about the near future, but I never give up hope for the long-term future.
요구하는 게 있으면 들어줄 수 있어서 문제 해결이 될 수가 있는데, 지금은 위험만 있고 요청사항이 무엇인지 뚜렷하지 않은 것 같습니다. 이게 우리에게 더 큰 위험이 될 수도 있다고 생각을 하는데, 혹시 박사님 예상하시기에 그들의 요청사항이 어떤 거라고 보십니까?
Well, first of all, in any sort of diplomatic process or dialogue, we wouldn't just fold to the North Korean demands. That's not a way to solve a problem. That has to be a negotiation, and you give and you take and you move along. Most important thing from the American side, as well as South Korean, you do have to listen to the North Koreans. You have to try to understand what do they really want, what's important. And then we, from our side, we have to make sure that they understand what's important. The Americans have continued to say denuclearization, get rid of nuclear weapons, with little focus on anything else. Well, that's not what the North Koreans are after, only that. The economy is important. The rest of the relationship with the South Korea is important. So it will take a much more comprehensive arrangement. But as I said, right now, the North Koreans are not ready to talk. And so it's a dangerous time.
You probably remember when President Kim Dae-jung met with Kim Jong-il in North Korea. Please share your feelings and memories from the time.
Well, first of all, yes, of course, I know the history of that. But I only paid attention to that after that time, because during that time, I was not involved with North Korea. I was working with Russia. I was working with China. I've been in Russia many, many times. I've been in China. I've been in Kazakhstan. I've been in Uzbekistan. I've been in Britain. I've been in France. I've been in India, and I've been in Pakistan. I was not in North Korea. And so, quite frankly, I don't have any real-time memories of that. I can only look back. And as I look back, these were steps in the right direction for the North and South to solve their problems. Steps in the right direction, but obviously it takes much more than that. And then in the end, the nuclear issue continued to get in the way. And so since 2004, I've been working on the nuclear issue. I understand things a lot better, but I've also not been successful, and I explain in hinge points.
라스트 퀘스천. 만약에 저희한테 진짜 해주고 싶은 말씀 있으시면 제가 질문을 안 해서 못한 말씀 있으시면 마지막으로 한 말씀만 드리도록.
Yeah, I think the most important issue is not only for the Korean people, but for the world to understand that we must do everything to avoid the use of nuclear weapons. And so that's what I'm focused on. So that's why Russia, China, India, Pakistan, Iran, and all of these places, that's what I focus on. And it's important to avoid another use. We haven't had the use of nuclear weapons since 1945. We've not had nuclear terrorism. We've had the benefits of nuclear power. And that's what I work on. And in Korea, it's one of these problems that needs to be solved. And so I want the Koreans and the Korean people to understand that we need to do everything to reduce the nuclear threats. Thank you.